On this week's show, we have a whole lot of legislative news across the globe and some news on another new feature at the Shanghai Gigafactory. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 651 for the week of May 2nd, 2021. We kick this show off with some good news from the Southern Hemisphere. I love that I get to show our Aussie friends some love as we get some news from Tesla in the gong. If you're a resident in Victoria looking to nab a standard range plus Model 3, you're going to want to jump on this new rebate available to you. You can pick up a $3,000 rebate on the Model 3, and the beauty of this incentive is that it's an instant rebate. That's right, folks. No messing around with tax forms or really any forms for that matter at all. Just take the $3,000 right off the drive-away price of the vehicle. Now, the reason that Standard Range Plus Model 3 is the specific model this applies to is due to the conditions of the rebate. The car must come in with a vehicle subtotal of under $68,740 Australian, which means that's really the only model that qualifies if I'm understanding the pricing model currently in Australia. If I'm wrong there, please do let me know. But you're going to want to jump on this quickly because there is a limit if it isn't already expired. They're only making this available to the first 4,000 people to register. Tesla says that there's going to be 16,000 more incentives eventually made available, but the government hasn't yet determined when this will be. So if you do happen to miss out this time, you're going to get another crack at it. This is very welcome news out of Australia, whose political climate hasn't exactly been kind to EVs. Hopefully this is a sign of the winds of change sweeping in for our friends down under. Our next item for this show comes from Torque News, and it's legislative news out of Texas. This is more of what I think will be increasingly common legislation aimed at extracting road and highway maintenance funds from hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and EV owners. According to the article, SB 1728, quote, would make owners of a vehicle running on electricity or another alternative fuel to pay an equalization consumption fee of $200 to $250 US. Owners of a hybrid vehicle would only have to pay $40 to $50 US for the same fee. These fees will be given to the State Highway Fund. This bill is said to be needed in order to fund road repairs, end quote. Tesla is, of course, against the bill, but interestingly, not totally opposed. Their opposition is not that the tax should be levied, rather that it's too much, suggesting that it should be dropped to $100 US for EVs. This actually is in line with my own thinking. Support or opposition to these bills comes down to two schools of thought, both of which I believe have merit. The supporting school of thought is that EV drivers drive the same roads as everyone else and should pay their fair share to maintain them. I lie in this school of thought, as long as the fee is commensurate to that which gasoline-powered cars pay. In my home state, the original fee for EV drivers would be such that it would be equivalent to driving over 35,000 miles per year in a gas car that gets 30 miles to the gallon. Obviously, this becomes a penalty to EV owners, and it's more than paying one's fair share. The flip side argument against legislation such as these is that we need to do all we can to incentivize the adoption of EVs, and part of not paying for gas is not paying for gas taxes. I'm against this argument because I feel like this sows division and resentment toward EV owners that are then perceived as better than others that cannot afford an EV. I think we get a lot of benefits from owning an EV already, and this isn't necessarily one you need to take if it means getting more people on board with the mission to transition to EVs. Regardless of your stance, please make your voice heard to your state representatives so that they know where you stand. Otherwise, these decisions get made in a vacuum, likely without good information from the people that they would affect, and that helps nobody. Tidbit number 3 has us coming back to the good side of legislation, or at least the legal system anyway, and we get this story from Drive Tesla Canada. Over in New Jersey, the New Jersey Coalition of Automotive Retailers had filed a complaint to the state saying that Tesla was enjoying benefits that it shouldn't, as it believes its sales locations aren't licensed. They further said that the Motor Vehicle Commission in the state was selectively enforcing its rules regarding these locations, and that officials had struck a deal that avoided the law that car sales had to go through a dealership. However, the appellate court that heard the complaint dismissed it, and the dismissal reason was priceless. Firstly, the court said that NJ Car did not prove that the state's actions were arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable, and that it failed to produce substantial evidence. But the glorious kicker is they said that NJ Car did not represent the public or public interests and does not have a sufficient stake in the outcome. Therefore, the Motor Vehicle Commission and Tesla could not cause harm to NJ Car. I mean, this is just brilliant. They were essentially told to get the heck out of court because their position did not have the public's interest at heart. Hallelujah to whoever this judge was for this decision. And lastly for this episode, we get word via Reuters that Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory will be adding recycling capabilities. As we already know, Tesla has been working on this feature at the original Gigafactory to handle reclamation of raw materials from spent battery packs. However, we never knew until now that this might be implemented at other factories. Reuters found this information in a regulatory statement to the Chinese government, which has been adding rules around recycling certain EV parts in order to make the entire EV life cycle as environmentally friendly as possible. Certainly, not having to dig more raw materials from the earth is a big plus for sustainability, both from the mining perspective as well as the emissions point of view. More information on this, as well as the Nevada recycling operation as it develops. That will do it for this week's show. Thanks to all my patrons supporting the show at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. And as always, I have a special shout out to all the super patrons supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Todd Sullivan, Zortec LED Canada, Raymond and Deborah Malkowitz, Vicky Kirk, Ricky Johnston, Nathan Garza, Ed Patterman, Sunil Joseph, and Brad Lettner. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. Until next week, keep it charged and hit the road.